Filter one kite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
I blame it on industry. I blame it on my own hypocrisy. Miseducation and politicians. No one's willing to step up and speak.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We are being broadcasted live. Yes, we are live right here at lifestyleradio.net and .ca. Plus, you can also catch us live over at Spreaker, as well as the Pace Radio Show's home website. I'm your host, Al Graham. Tonight, my joint host is Northern Ontario Kim Cooper. And yes, she likes it up there in the north. And our guest tonight is someone who's also in the north. And she is an author and a cannabis business owner, and we'll find out about both of those things as the night goes on. But before we learn more, Kim, it's time for you and I to discuss some news.
Yeah, and there's been plenty going on in the news in the past couple of weeks, that's for sure. It was a little bit difficult to pick and choose tonight what we wanted to talk about.
Yes, it's
Two
always
things really stood out though tonight, eh?
yes, two of them do. This first one that we're going to discuss here. This is a bit of a shopping experience for somebody, anyways. And there was residents out there in British Columbia. Fella, he looked out the front window of his house and he couldn't believe it. He said he saw this grocery cart sitting out in front of his house and had a couple garbage bags in it, and he thought, what's someone doing leaving their garbage in front of my house? Went out and investigated it and found out that the garbage bags were full of cannabis.
Yeah, 2 garbage bags and plus some more in the bottom of this shopping cart in front of this Kelowna homeowner's residence on Monday morning. And instead of doing what the majority of us listening to this program would have done, this gentleman opted to call the police department.
Yes, the RCMP, they had to show up and clean up the material, which appeared to be more of trimmings from the plant. Yeah, it wasn't, there's probably some buds mixed in there, but the main thing, it was trimmings, which are still very valuable to people. But, the police officers, they said, this wasn't what they signed up for to do. They, serve the community, but they didn't realize they'd be serving in community by sweeping up cannabis on the roadway.
It's quite the story, that's for sure. Pretty much everybody I've spoken to about it said they would have been scrambling to get those bags inside before anybody seen them.
Yeah, exactly. And it was pretty close. He almost posted it at 4:20 too.
Yeah, so quite the story coming out of BC. Not exactly what you expect to see.
I'm going to say at least 4 garbage bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the Pro Mix and stuff in the pictures, but somebody got rid of their stuff, the trimmings.
They only wanted the bud. They got rid of the rest. They have no idea the gold mine that they threw away.
Exactly. To some it's funny, but to some it's very disappointing.
Oh, for sure. It's a funny situation. It's a sad situation, but hopefully the person has learned their lesson now, because I'm sure they've been educated as to the relevance of the stuff that they chose to package.
Yeah, very important. Very important, that's for sure. Okay, now time to move on to a second story that we've got for us. And this one, actually last week during the program, Alicia Yashishin was a joint host, and she was discussing about the raids that happened in Saskatchewan, that are happening in her area. and how she was upset about them.
Well, it directly affected her, so now we have an instance where one of our joint hosts is directly affected by a police action, and it's very concerning when you're a medical patient.
It sure is. So she is Alicia, who's on here every other week. She is the co-founder of the Saskatchewan Medical Cannabis Association, which has over 100 members, and Alicia and the association spoke out against the raids, and they have requested that the Saskatchewan police do a moratorium on raiding these dispensaries and stop this, because the police don't seem to be considered the patients that are being harmed in all this.
Yeah, and it seems that her speaking out caught the eye of CBC News in Saskatoon, and she was featured in an article that was published there on March the 2nd, just after the day after the show, our last show with Alicia. So it was great to see her in the news and the organization that she's with being featured, and the injustices of all of these raids being done and how they affect patients directly.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some pictures here. It looks like there's a bit of a mess going on there at the raids. And it's good. It's good to see Alicia and people involved and getting involved. It's very important.
Absolutely.
All right. Talking about getting involved, I know by the sounds of it, our guest is very involved in things.
Yes, she is. Our next guest dove in, so to speak, head first, feet first, whatever you want to call it, but she's fully immersed. That's for sure.
Okay, well, she is someone who I described earlier as an author and a cannabis business owner. So I'd like to welcome Irene York onto the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Irene. How are you?
Oh, are you on mute maybe, Irene? Oh goodness, did we lose Irene?
Well, I'm sure that she's working on it. She is there. I can see her there.
Technical difficulties on live radio. This is how these things happen.
We
were fine.
She was just gab before the show.
I think maybe we hit mute or something, and we're trying to get back off of mute now, and it's not working for her with this new headset that she's got.
Could be. Well, hey, in the meantime, you can give a bit of a rundown of a little bit of Irene, some of the stuff, the information posted there while we try to figure out what's going on with her mic.
Yeah. Try and contact her through other means in the meantime. But Irene, I got in contact with Irene, I guess about 2.5 years ago was the first time I had met Irene. And she was interested in getting something going in just north of Toronto in the Penetang area. And she started a cafe there called the Cannabis Corner Cafe, Vape and Info Lounge. And she's been educating patients and supplying patients with a place to go to consume their cannabis as well as get an education. That's evolved over time. She's been able to get some patients legal and access to doctors and that sort of thing. And it's transforming, and she's now on a new enterprise where she's going to be opening a clinic in the near future. And she's also just recently published a book.
Wow. So it sounds like she's...
I think we have Irene.
We have Irene. There she is. I
think we do. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, hi.
Awesome. It is the new headset. Sorry, it's just not cooperating apparently. When we went to quiet time, it went to sleep.
I went to sleep. Well, it sounds like it's working really good right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Kim. That was a wonderful introduction. And yeah, we've been really busy here in Penetang. I'm not sure what questions I could answer for anyone, but it's been a whirlwindish experience. How's that for a new word?
Well, it's always great to be able to talk to a lounge owner, especially with what's going on with the Ontario government and stuff. But we'll cover that as the night progresses. What we do, Irene, is I will hand the reins over to Kim, and she would start off with some questions, and I'll just jump in as the night goes along.
Excellent.
All right. Okay, Kim.
Thanks so much, Al. Well, Irene, I've given everybody pretty much an overview of the situation. So, I'm so glad that we finally got a chance to connect and have you on this show. So much is going on with you. Let's go back to the very beginning. What exactly inspired you to open a shop in Penetang?
Well, I think more than anything, I was starting to get quite a reach online. And I had been producing the videos through the YouTube channel and just sharing. Every time I learned some information, I would share that out via YouTube and that sort of thing. It started to bring a lot of people my way asking me questions. There's a lot of cannabis curiosities. In today's times, there's a lot of missing information and a lot of misinformation, for lack of a better term. So with that many people showing up at my door, it was time to, maybe bring the doors downtown.
Right. Face to face and bring it out to the public. Here's where I am, sort of a thing.
Well, yeah, and it's time to take cannabis out of the closet. For too long, we've been hiding conversations. We don't ask openly. I could sit in a pub and very easily discuss wine that I've made in my basement or that my next door neighbor's making or the new grapes that Joe Blow down the street is farming.
Right.
But anybody talking about weed, and right away it becomes a hush-hush conversation. And I really think that I'm not one of those persons that has the time to spend studying the law, the legalities of it, or the legislation of it. I focus more on the logistics of it. And that being said, I think we need to normalize it. And hence, I opened up Cannabis Corner Cafe on the main street of Penetang.
All right. Right downtown?
Yes.
Yeah, right downtown, right on the main drag, bold and proud and in your face and saying, hey, I'm here to answer questions and to give you a safe place to consume. Fabulous in a small town.
Yes.
Yeah. Did they give you any flack?
No, not really. It was more curiosity than anything. And as far as the township, they pre-educated themselves when I told them that, no, what I'm proposing is not illegal.
Yeah.
They pre-educated themselves, which was wonderful. They were very supportive in us opening and understanding exactly what we were trying to do and how we were trying to do it.
Excellent.
Initially, now we ran into a lot of different challenges over the course of the 6 months, but in opening, the biggest challenge was the inability to advertise, and that's due to current legalities and legislation that, places like the radio and television and newspaper have the right to refuse any advertising copy. Because our name is Cannabis Corner Cafe, we were denied advertising opportunities in a lot of different ways in the beginning. And so that left us to a challenge.
Yeah. If nobody knows you're there, then nobody's going. And if nobody's going, then you can't sustain the existing business.
Right. However, we are fortunate in that we are in a small community, which is a very tight-knit community. So there was enough talk that people gradually built the confidence to come through the doors and ask questions that they were looking for answers to.
Right.
Some questions like, how do I get a medical card? Do I need a medical card? Can this really help me? Does it actually help with this? Or there's so much confusing information. When I try to study it for myself, I get overwhelmed. So having a place like Cannabis Corner Cafe that the general public can walk into, ask questions without fear of being persecuted, without having the concerns of, am I going to be labeled?
Yep.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
for sure.
by hiding in the closet and staying at home and all the rest, we continue to support the stigmatism that's attached to pot consumers.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep. For
Yeah,
sure. It's hard to break down the barriers.
I can remember several years ago taking a fella out who, consumed cannabis for years, but he always stayed home and he used his bong at home or at friend's place, but didn't publicly ever use it. And he came with us for a tour of the vapor lounges in Toronto in the middle of winter. It was like January when we did this, and it just literally blew him away.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's so used to doing everything, hidden and not being out in the open, and then to see all the people that are going to these places.
Well, exactly. And I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I did a very quiet study 2 years ago, and I just did a local survey, and 63% of the 487 people that I asked the question to, 63% of them used cannabis on a daily basis. I didn't see hardly any of them come to my lounge.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they're all consuming at home.
Right, but I understand perfectly well why. Because society still maintains an archaic attitude. And part of that is because of the fear media, the fear-induced advertising that's out there. There's still a huge stigmatism attached to consumption, and a lot of people don't understand that cannabis can be used in so many different ways for so many different uses, and that this really, truly is a wonder weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Irene. I couldn't agree more. Now, you found over time that I guess your business is going through a bit of an evolution now. But before I go there, actually, you did a lot of things with Cannabis Corner. You guys did a lot. You had like game nights and stuff like that, board game nights and card game nights and all kinds of stuff going on. Yoga, weed and yoga, all kinds of things, right?
Different
right.
events.
Well, we tried to. One of the yoga we were unsuccessful with, only because I couldn't find a yoga instructor that would do it, and I'm just not confident enough with my own skills. But the meditation night, mindful meditation night, that was very productive, and the people who attended that info event really found that they could modulate or moderate their own pain, which would, through medication or through medicating, they were able to meditate, which meant they now had a new tool for moderating their pain or managing their pain levels.
Yeah.
Especially with somebody whose mind just goes 100 miles an hour, for them to medicate, to calm things down, to allow them to meditate.
Well,
yeah.
Exactly. And anybody who is in pain or has been in chronic pain or severe pain, spastic type pain, would recognize right away that as soon as that pain, even a symptom or a sign of that pain starting, right away, I'm not sure exactly what the name of the part of the brain is that activates. I think it's the hypothalamus or the hippocampus or some such thing. But as soon as that activates, right away it goes to the worst pain you remember. So now your body's in high gear. I'm going to feel that pain. That meditation is not so easy to achieve.
That's right.
One balloon or, a couple of puffs, whatever it may be, can help slow that down, put the hippocampus or hypothalamus, whatever it is, to sleep for about a half a second, long enough for the brain to actually register, okay, this is the amount of pain I'm in. I can alleviate it this way. It really is mind management in a lot of cases.
For sure. You need something to bring you back down. I can attest to that chronic pain levels. And that's true. That's exactly where your brain goes, is all the precursor symptoms to when you're going to be having an onset of an episode of chronic pain. And when those precursor symptoms happen, you start to panic. You think, oh shit, I'm going to be on the couch for a week. It's all of this stuff starts running through your head. And you've got to bring yourself down a little bit, before you can even think about doing anything to calm yourself down in a meditative state. That's for sure.
Exactly. And cannabis is an amazing vehicle to help transport us to that safe place where we can actually assess what our pain level is based on what it is instead of what we expect it to be.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And businesses like yourselves there at the Cannabis Corner, it helps for people who are patients who are traveling, coming as tourists maybe to your city, and allows them a place to go where they, to deal with the pain issue.
Well, ideally. Unfortunately, however, due to the new legislation, I guess it's Bill 174, which I guess comes into full implementation sometime between June and July 1st.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how's that going to affect you?
I've already closed the cafe lounge doors.
Oh.
I've taken it's really unfortunate, and I would, I think in a larger town or a larger city, I might have been bold enough to push it a little bit longer.
Right.
But under the circumstances, I'm not. So I'm taking the consultation aspect and just focusing on that, the books, and doing info seminars. I have made arrangements with the owner of the building where the cafe has been, that I can continue to lease the place on a per day basis, so we can continue to do those info event seminars that we were talking about a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So we also did one. We do a lot of educational seminars as well, like adding the cannabis leaf to the poppy. Really frightened a lot of people at first, but when I suggested, the only reason that we would even suggest to do something like that, not on a full-time basis, is it's in support of the men and women and their families who are a part of our military that suffer from PTSD, OSI. These are very serious conditions when they come home to their family, and cannabis is one of the only resolutions that they have to finding a greater peace so that they can resolve the issues that they have. A lot of people don't understand this, and being that they're military men or women, we expect them to be strong soldiers, tin men, robots,
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, so how did local, you got some, sounds like you got some bit of a negative comments, pushback on them, but like as far as the Legion?
Actually, we got more fear response because I'm not an in-your-face kind of person. And so I was very subtle in proposing and suggesting it. And I spoke with the president at the Legion, and he came down and spoke that night about PTSD, what he knows of the subject, what he sees with his Legionnaires, and how cannabis helps, and how Veteran Affairs pays for this medication for soldiers who are, or military men and women who are suffering from this condition.
It was good. Yeah, down there to promote that end of it all too. As far as the Veteran Affairs covering for them.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's important. I think education is very empowering, and I think I'm not strong enough to be the type of person to be in your face rah-rah rally activist, but subtly, I think it's some people have a better understanding when we're more sympathetic and slower at introducing things that were once very frightening. I mean, cannabis has been demonized by society for 8 decades.
Yeah.
And so it is very frightening.
We all have our own personalities, and we all have our own role to play, and our own set of people that we can educate. And as long as all of these personalities are doing this simultaneously, then eventually we'll reach the masses.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's being sort of, cannabis prohibition is being attacked, from different angles. There's people like ourselves who have been doing it, one-on-one, educating people. And then the rallies, there's people who don't like the rallies, but that itself, the rally starts off, people reading the paper, 1 year it's 2,000 people Next year it's 4,000 people. And the next thing you want to know is 15, 20,000 people. Those are all people who are coming out of the closet, people who are speaking up. So it's a different way, of advocacy work. But it's all,
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, for me up here, small town Ontario, northern Ontario, I mean, we get, first years we get sometimes 25 people at a rally, but then we'll make the local news and people are like, wow, there was that many people there. Okay, well, I'm going to go to the next one. And then the next one, you've got 50 and then it grows to 100 and then 200. Like you say, it increases in size. And it's because people are encouraged to come out when they see other people out. Rallies absolutely serve a purpose within the community.
Oh, most definitely. As I said, I'm not the big speaker for the rah rallyist type thing. Mm-hmm. But last year we have never hosted, as you know, being from a small town yourself, it's very difficult to propose something like that. Well, last year we held the very first 420 public event in our area ever.
Yeah. All right. Ready to go.
Quite exciting. We held it out at the Maple Valley Club. And of course we held it as an Info is Power event. Come on out and learn something. Quit snubbing your nose at cannabis users until you know something about it. Have an informed opinion. You can have an opinion, but have an informed one. So that's kind of how I approached it last year. And it was quite successful. On the overall, we had about 200 people come through and probably around 60 or so people at the ceremonial spark up. And it was quite fun. And for our little town and the little towns around us, it was really quite an exciting movement forward.
Absolutely. I mean, people that are in larger cities like Toronto and Vancouver and stuff like that, they kind of scoff at our numbers, but you have to wrap your head around the size of our towns and our communities. They're very, very small. So when we get 60 people at a Spark Up event, that's huge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Niagara Falls 420 rallies that were held down there. They're the first ones that I was aware of. And you wouldn't get thousands of people all the time. You have some good crowds. There's years where there was busloads of people, but there's other years where, wow, is that it? So, being a small town, first time through, getting 60 people, that's great because those are people who are speaking out.
And 200 people through the gate for info, that's enormous. I mean, and 60 people willing to be out there in public and in a public spark up. That's huge. I hope I get at least those numbers as well. We're doing our first ever event, another Northern Ontario city in Timmins this year. So I'm looking forward to finding out our numbers as well for this year. So with you on that, and congratulations to you for doing that, Irene. That's fantastic that you brought that to Penetang.
Thank you. Well, we're hoping to do another this year, and we'll hold it at the location where the cafe was. But I really am, it's one of those, as you're well aware, putting together an event like that it takes a lot of different people from a lot of different areas because it is a volunteer thing. And we have to do it out of passion. I mean, I can't think of any other reason why we would.
It's a hell of a lot of work putting on an event like that. You've got to get everything together. You've got to get your sponsors. You're doing all the work and you're doing it all for free to put on a party for hopefully 100 or more perfect strangers. So if you're not passionate, you're not doing it.
Exactly. Now, fortunately, the cannabis community is filled with really supportive people. I mean, everyone I met last year was in for, hey, how can I help? And I'd love to be a part of that, which is fantastic because, as you know, many hands make for little work.
That's right. And it's great when you've got the community support. It makes for a lighter task for sure. And it makes usually for a much happier event as well. If one person isn't just completely off their nuts stressed, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
So, great. I'm glad that to hear that they're going on with their second annual event. There's an outpouring of Northern Ontario communities now that are diving on and having events like 420 and 710 and
Right.
Cannabis Canada Day and that kind of thing. And it's encouraging to see it happening in the North.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We thought of doing the 710 if we don't make the 420 this year. Just to, again, it's there's so many things going on simultaneously.
A 710 rally.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. And
Wow.
in
I don't
our
know, I don't
area,
know of any. You know of any, Kim? 710 rally?
Yeah, they had one. They had one in Toronto last year. They had a 710.
Well, they had the 710 Cup.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a lot of northern towns are talking about having, rallies, sort of a thing,
Oh, wow.
same thing as 420 for 710. Because in
Lead
the
on.
north, 420, that's April the 20th. Our climate is
cold.
not the same as Toronto.
It
It's
can
still
be cold here,
cold,
too. Yeah.
So 710, that's July 10th. Yeah, I could handle a nice rally in July 10th.
It can be warm. That's right. Yes, April the 20th can be a little bit frosty. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
absolutely.
Okay, ladies, it's time for us to take a break.
Alrighty.
Right.
Excellent. Okay.
Tonight our bumper music is by the Hicks, and our audience will be listening to a bit of a song called Mr. Bong. And then Kim and I will continue our talk with Irene York. This is the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.ca and .net.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Oh, yeah. I roll 'em big, I roll 'em fat. I roll 'em like a baseball bat. I roll 'em large, I roll 'em tight. The joints I roll are dynamite. And I think you get my point. That's why they call me Mr. Jones.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
The following is a public service announcement from the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society. The Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a non-profit organization dedicated to ensuring improved access to therapeutic cannabis and cannabis byproducts in Canada. With a federal government that has committed to legalizing cannabis, we feel it is our duty to ensure that the medicinal use of cannabis doesn't get lost in the process and that there are clear distinctions made between the medicinal and recreational use of cannabis. It is our mission to ensure that government regulation doesn't get in the way of a sick, disabled, or terminally ill person's right to use or produce this amazing natural health product. If you would like to get involved, you can contact us on the internet www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, on Facebook, CTCP Society, or search Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners.
CTCP now operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CTCP.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
I bought a bong from Tommy Chong, and I packed the bowl all night long. I packed the bowl and sing my song. That's why they call me Mr. Bong. That's right.
Hey, we're back. It's the Pace Radio Show, and we are live here at lifestyleradio.ca as well as .net. And if you missed the live shows, don't worry. You can catch our podcast at YouTube, iTunes, USA listeners. You can catch it on iHeartRadio. Who knows? Maybe someday podcast will come to the iHeartRadio here in Canada. And maybe you'll find us there too. See what happens down the road. Tonight on the program, we are joined by our guest, Irene York, of the Cannabis Corner Cafe, and our joint host, Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper. Well, ladies, we're into segment 2. Where shall we go to now?
Well, I think we're going to expand now a little bit and talk about some new ventures that are coming up for Irene. She's closed the doors on Cannabis Corner Cafe, but she's going to continue to host events at that location and seminars and information stuff and that kind of thing. So you can still watch for her there on different evenings when stuff's going on. But she's going to be available to the masses in the area via television airwaves in the near future with a brand new show on cable TV. Tell us about your new show, Irene.
Oh, it's absolutely exciting. I can't wait to be answering all of the questions on a much broader scale instead of one-to-one. I found in the cafe I can answer the same questions in a 6-hour period. There will be 20 different people that ask the same question.
Yeah.
So this way here I'm able to reach a much larger audience for sure. The channels, it airs, I think we're going to start airing in April. Probably around the 20th actually, which will be really kind of cool. We haven't settled on a name yet, but we're looking at Canna Chat or Canna Curious. Those are the names that we're considering. Initially, we're going to air in the Midland area, and then we're hoping to expand to all of Simcoe County on all the Simcoe County channels.
Excellent. And this will be on the local, I guess, is it whatever, Rogers or whatever it is out there?
The local Rogers cable TV station, yeah. Channel 50.
Grassroots television.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. You know, community topics for the community, by the community.
Yep.
Oh, for sure. A lot of people reach out to those stations. They're very informative. So what kind of stuff are you going to cover on here?
Well, we're actually going to touch on a whole lot of different subjects, starting primarily with things like just bud basics, much like the book is. Just covering the differences between CBD and THC. At a different point in time, we're hoping to have Dr. Elizabeth Kushner on the program as a guest to talk about all the patients that she's seen that she's helped get onto a medical card. We're going to cover topics about how to get your medical card, what kinds of things to expect, what you can do with your product when you actually get your product. As I've instructed a lot of different patients that have come through my door with conditions like arthritis or localized, generalized pain, a topic that don't want to experience the euphoria that cannabis offers. Sorry, I chuckle.
Yeah. Well, some of us like it, some of us don't, right?
And
There are those out there that don't want the head high, and I understand that they're looking at it for the medicinal value. They want it to alleviate their symptoms, and they don't want to catch a buzz. Me personally, I don't regularly catch a buzz anymore. I'm pretty much immune now. It takes a lot of work for me to catch a buzz, so I just call it getting level at this point. But that's after 40 years of consumption. So
Here, I understand. Yeah, I've got a friend who doesn't like the euphoric effect and reaches out for CBD strains, and she grew one this year that was 13% CBD and very marginal, very little, next to no THC in it. She was very happy when she got her test results back.
yeah, a lot of people really love the CBD strains that are out there now. They say they do wonders for them, and they love the fact that they don't get the euphoric effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm a super fan of the euphoria that goes along with it as well. But there is a time and place I found, and for some, if they've got to go to work, but they're dealing with arthritis, and if they've got to keep a clear, focused mind while at work, a topical solution is an amazing option for them. And once they learn, and that's what part of our workshops are about. Once they learn how to take that bud that they get from the LP or, wherever they, grow your own, seriously grow your own. Dana Larson is, I'm a super fan just because overgrow Canada.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree 100%,
Kim, did you hear that? I thought you were the super fan of
Sorry, Kim.
That's okay. I'm willing to share the space.
Well, I'm on board with you.
There's room for all.
That's right. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
And so, all I was saying, so, I get it that there are times where you do not want to feel that high. Now, as far as your friend in wherever your friend is that's growing the CBD, Cannatonic is, those seeds can be purchased through Crop King Seeds. Absolutely amazing. Anywhere from 18 to 22% CBD with very little 1 to 3% THC content.
Wow, eh?
And it is, and now I could be wrong on this, but I do believe it's auto flowering, which means it goes by, it flowers according to age, not light source. And I mean, that just makes it the most valuable medicinal plant that I can think of.
That's a possibility that the Cannatonic's been crossed.
I remember the first time I heard the name Cannatonic, I thought, oh yeah, that's going to put you in the couch or in a coma or something,
Well, the original did, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did it? See, I have not been a consumer for very many years, and definitely not for my lifetime. In fact, probably 20 years ago, or as early as 20 years ago, I was very against cannabis consumption.
What made you change? What made you change?
Well, about 15 years ago, and I'm guesstimating at the years here, approximately, I was very, very ill. I was diagnosed and definitely misdiagnosed in some arenas, but very over-medicated for a large number of years, which put me in a wheelchair and or a hospital bed or more or less in bed, bedridden for a very large portion of 7 years. At one point in time, I was prescribed 96 pills a day, and I was on fentanyl and just basically saying goodbye to my existence. I was living in a pharmaceutical coma state, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
When ultimately all of the chemical substitutes, the pharmaceuticals, took their toll, and I almost had it out. My grandson had just been born. My first grandson had just been born, and I said, no. No more pills. I'm done. And I threw them all out. And I expected to be gone in a couple of days. Then that didn't happen. In fact, about 9 days later, my partner of the time was infusing my food and anything that I could ingest. as well as keeping all of the muscle spasms and the spasticity at bay through inhalation, I started to come around. About 3 months later, I stood on my legs without any support for the very first time in quite some time, and by that I mean probably close to a year, if not longer,
Wow.
without any serious debilitating pain. Shortly thereafter, I started walking and walked from one concession to the next. The following summer, I was doing about 22 kilometers.
Wow.
Year after that, I started riding my bike, and all of it. The only thing, I have been pharmaceutical free now for 6 years, and I only use cannabis.
Congratulations.
Now,
Wow.
that being said, I have taken a Tylenol or two, over the counter.
Oh,
No
yeah.
problem.
We're all guilty of that.
But pharmaceutical free. And it's been a long road, and it's been a challenging road. And can I say that I got it all perfect? Absolutely not. But I learned a lot of things that can be shared and of great value to others that are looking to heal themselves and get out of the chaos of Western medicine.
Absolutely. I mean, amazing how many people, it's always patients helping patients. Almost every advocate, almost every resource person that is out there that is now starting an enterprise and educating people. We're all patients and we've been through it and trying to stop the madness.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. And when you go through experiences like yourself, Irene, and ours, you want to share it with other people. You want to share this experience, especially you're gone from a position of being against cannabis to being like, holy smokes, look what it's done for me, and I got to share it with everybody.
Yeah,
absolutely. And not to say there isn't a time and a place for Western medicine or for pharmaceuticals. I mean, quite frankly, if I've got limbs hanging off of me and detached, do not show up with a joint. I'm not going to be impressed.
That's right. There's a time and place for everything. I mean, I'm not against all pharmaceuticals either. I say the same thing, Irene. There's a time and place for everything. It's the over-prescribing and the go-to medication. And it's like, okay, you start off with one pill and in 6 months you're on 15.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then there's the benefit of it, how cannabis can help with the side effects. So maybe not if it doesn't help with the medical condition, the pharmaceutical drugs that you're on for that condition can cause problems where cannabis can help with that.
That's right. And it'll prevent you from going on more medication to prevent side effects. Use cannabis for side effects instead and stop the roller coaster.
Right. And where that begins is it begins with the patient. And this is total opinion, but I think we have to start taking responsibility for ourselves as patients. And somehow, somewhere along the way, we stopped doing that. We stopped being responsible for our own health and wellness. And we rely on the doctors. We walk in with an ache and a pain and we say, ow, 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 my neighbor has the same pain and she takes this, and the doctor says, fine. Here, try it. And so we race home for that. We don't look for an alternative solution. We don't look to say, why is my knee bothering me so much? Well, maybe because I'm going up and down this makeshift ladder 30 times a day, and it's not an ergonomic ladder. But instead of considering that and taking responsibility, we race to the doctor and say, I go up and down the ladder all day. I need something so my leg stops hurting.
Yeah, and it's very true, and it's very true. We need to self-advocate as well, I think. Many times we go into the doctor and we say, this is what's wrong. And the doctor, whether it be on purpose or just because of lack of time or whatever the reason is, many times will misdiagnose because they're not getting enough information and not delving deep enough to find out the cause. And we just take the physician's word for it. We need to do our own research, self-advocate when you get there, have an idea, and if you disagree with the doctor, bloody speak up.
Yes, go in prepared and don't be afraid of asking for a second opinion.
Yeah.
Or suggesting that I'm going to get a second opinion. And sometimes standing up in that capacity, I think patients, and I hear this a lot in the cafe, patients are afraid to step up to their doctor. doctors are very overwhelmed and can be somewhat intimidating. But we're all human and we all suffer the same condition. We all bailed on a test or two. We all failed on an exam or two. We didn't all get everything right in college.
For sure.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the show, we were talking about stigmatization, being stigmatized. We talked about, you not being, pro cannabis for a while, and then you got sick, and then everything's, obviously gotten better. Your quality of life has improved immensely. The people around you, I would assume that, if you were, sort of against cannabis, and I wouldn't imagine there was a lot of cannabis use around you prior to this. And when these people, maybe they were against cannabis and they saw the way that you, became, healthier and better. Yeah, pro cannabis. How did they react in the beginning, and how are things now?
Well, admittedly, I
Go
I
ahead,
get
you
teased often. I get teased often. I had a very wide mixture of friends from cannabis consumers to non-consumers, and it was very interesting. When I started using cannabis, because I was ill, even the people who are against cannabis use, let's say, I don't know the term to use there, but people who are against it, anti-cannabis, were because I was using it medically, they could see the benefit, so we're not in a judgmental state. And those who had known me before that were regular cannabis consumers nowadays tease the living daylights out of me. I mean, I've become a bigger pothead than most of them,
That's funny. That's funny.
And,
so the anti-cannabis, so to speak, people, or the prohibitionist type mindset people that you used to be a part of, how are they when you advanced into like the Cannabis Corner Cafe and that kind of thing? Do you still hang out with the same kind of people?
More or less, I would say that most of them have come to a more they're no longer against or for. They're kind of indifferent, just sort of sitting there waiting to see what happens till they learn more. I've really found that. I have a family member who's very up there in age, and we got into the discussion, and I would never dare to tell this man that he is wrong. He's 94 years old. It's my granddad.
Yeah.
And based on his education and his conditioning and his experience in life, I just wouldn't tell him. I mean, who am I?
Yeah.
So when we started to get into the discussion a few years back about using cannabis, both recreationally as well as medicinally, he had a bit of an opinion. And as much as I didn't verbally say anything, I physically said a lot, because he point blank asked me, "What, you disagree with me?" And I said yes. And then I told him why. And he smiled at me, and this is what I love about the older generation. He smiled at me and he said, "Well, before we further this conversation, I'm going to educate myself a little more."
There you go.
And he did. And, God bless him. He understands the value of it. And I find that with a lot of people, it's really, truly education. It's informed opinions. I don't mind if somebody is against cannabis use. It's if they're against it for the wrong reasons.
That's right.
They've been manipulated by the media, or they've been conditioned by the church, and I'm not picking on anything in particular, just in general. If they've been conditioned or manipulated, if their opinion is just regurgitated opinion.
Yeah. Propaganda.
Propaganda. Yeah, because cannabis, it's one of those seeds that were supposed to be thrown everywhere and grown and be good for mankind.
Well, the one thing that I tell almost everybody that I come in contact with, don't believe me. don't believe what I'm telling you. Don't believe your doctor. Don't believe your next door neighbor. Don't believe the television or the radio. Listen to all of us, research it yourself, and then make your decisions.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, science hasn't progressed because we all follow the same path. It's because we all we utilize the resources around us and maximized their efficacy.
You know, and once they've educated themselves, they tend to be a little more open on things, and then they end up educating other people as well. They'll hear something, a negative remark somewhere, and maybe speak up.
Exactly. And I'm finding more and more of that in our community in particular. And I don't know if it's just simply because I'm paying closer attention, or if it's because people are talking more, they're communicating more about it. It's come out of the closet. I mean, it's on the main street of today.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm gonna bring it back to a little bit to the beginning, to the start of this segment, to your TV show there. What kind of a format are you going to have for this? Is it going to be a call-in, or is it going to be pre-arranged? Are you going to have guests, or is it how are you doing this?
Yes, and yes, Kim.
Okay, there we go.
Actually, we're kind of going with the flow because cannabis is such a versatile subject with so many subtopics. Yeah. What we're going to start with is just basically the seeds. And that being said, so we're going live to tape. So we'll be recording live, and it's kind of like a conversational chit-chat in the living room, setting up the, just hang out at the kind of like at the lounge, except of course we'll be at the studio. And let's just talk cannabis, and let's talk for real about it.
Sounds like what we're doing without the video.
Yeah,
exactly. On some shows, I will have some guests Skyped in. I will have some live guests. I'm hoping to have a co-host per show, and ideally one that is either very immersed in the subject or very against the subject. Because again, I think controversy is important in that it gives an alternative viewpoint.
Oh, debate is always good.
Well, and I do. I think it's essential. It makes us think, and the more we think, the more we learn.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, it sounds like it's going to be fantastic. I hope are you going to be able to put this out like on your YouTube channel or anything after it airs on your local media?
Yes. Now, from kind of what I've gathered from the conversations that I've had with the producers, this wasn't possible until recently, but I can now, after each show, put a live feed onto the website, and as well, and then link that, of course, to social media such as Facebook, Steemit, and YouTube, DTube.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So reaching the masses, are you?
I'm working on it.
Well, yeah, it's great that this technology is available these days because, 15, 20 years ago, it wasn't.
No, that's right. That's right. I mean, when I started, even years ago, when I started with Normal, I signed up with Normal through the mail, right? I mean, I found out about it, and it's like, oh, well, I'll find out their address, and you sent them a letter saying, yeah, I want to join. And they sent you back another letter that said, okay, you can join,
Times have changed, that's for sure.
A long way.
Now, we've got...
the information highway has has opened a lot of eyes for a lot of different subjects.
Sure has. It sure has. A quick question before we go to break. We got about a minute here before we go to break. Now that you're not a cafe vapor lounge, is the business name going to change any, or is that sign still out front? Or
The sign is definitely still out front. We're still going to be doing workshops, information events. I'm still going to be hosting different activities. In addition to that, I'm doing private consultations. I'm just doing them from a home office now or on site.
I just didn't know whether the business name would be changing, being that if you're doing consulting, whether you would put consulting within the business name or...
No, I think, somewhere down the line with legislation, I'm going to stick, I think legislation, I think the people will be able to move government on this ultimately.
Yeah.
And vapor lounges, I mean, there's such a need for a safe haven for both, for medical consumers, absolutely. I mean,
so then you're hoping to reopen then?
I would love to in the future, and I'd love to be able to offer an infused menu and spa solutions on my shelf.
Do you know of Abby Roach at the Hot Box?
I don't. I've read a few articles. I don't know her personally.
She's got to be the leading advocate on the lounge issue, fighting with the government for sure, big time.
I'd certainly be happy to team forces with her.
Yeah.
So look her up on social media. Give her a dingle because, I'm sure she'd like some help, especially spread out a little bit, Europe and the North. So.
Yeah, and maybe enough screaming.
That's right. That's right. More of the voices, louder the voice, right?
It's a squeaky wheel.
Yeah. Okay, well, ladies, it's that time again. Time for us to take another break.
Again?
Yeah. We got more to talk about. So, all right, and our listeners are going to hear some more of the Hicks. And when we return, Kim and I will continue our conversation with our guest, Irene York. You're listening to the Pace Radio Show. We are live here at lifestyleradio.net.
Hey, this is Cheech. And this is Chong. And you're listening to Lifestyle Radio. What is it? Lifestyle Radio. Say it one more time. 420 Radio? Ooh.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Man, have you been to Cannadays yet? Cannadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck and wholesaler Nexus. Cannadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Cannadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education. Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Cannadays. Have your say without saying a word. Cannadays.ca.
Hi, this is Al Graham of the Pace Radio Show. Are you keeping pace, as in keeping people advocating cannabis education? If you're not, and you're a cannabis consumer, then why not? Others are working hard every day to help educate people about cannabis so you can enjoy your daily 420. Get involved and speak out. Be loud and proud so that you can keep pace. Tune into the Pace Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear about people advocating cannabis education here on lifestyleradio.ca.
This is Northern Ontario, Kim Cooper. Catch me every Monday at 4:20 on The Reefer Reporters, aired on lifestyleradio.net. Available for replay or download on Lifestyle Radio or Spreaker.
Are you looking for cannabis news, education, and people's opinions? Are you looking to learn what Canadian and international cannabis advocates are doing? Not only now, but what got them to this point in their lives, and what does the future hold for them? Do you want to learn how patients are using cannabis as their daily medication? or learn how their cannabis use helps them with their medical condition? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then I'm going to suggest to you to tune in to Lifestyle Radio. Catch their live weekly shows and have your questions and concerns answered and find the experience you're looking for. Monday, catch your weekly news broadcast with the Reefer Reporters. Then on Wednesday, get several hours worth of cannabis public education. We get things started with cannabis and coffee with Tamarawana. Then tune in and catch Pottawa with Russell Barth, who calls himself the world's angriest pothead. Finish up your evening with the award-winning Pace Radio Show with Al Graham and joint host Kim Cooper and Alicia Yashishin. No week would be complete without tuning into Friday night's program, the 420 Radio Show, featuring Al Rapp and the 420 Radio crew, Mary Jane Baker and Marcel Gignac. Cannabis is a lifestyle, and you can catch all your cannabis lifestyle information right here at lifestyleradio.net or at our sister site, 420radio.ca.
Canada, the time to act is now. These days, your customers are seeking variety. Increase your earning potential by expanding your inventory with CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. CC Nexus stocks over 60 reputable breeders, including Canuck seeds, with a wealth of autoflower, regular, feminized, and CBD strains. All first-time customers will receive a free pack of Canuck seeds, plus a mug, t-shirt, and additional promotional materials. Add strains and increase your profit with CC Nexus, your Canadian-owned and operated wholesaler of cannabis seeds. Discreet, worldwide stealth shipping from Canada, supporting you locally. Call today, 1-844-843-7995, 1-844-843-7995, or visit us at ccnexus.global.
Welcome back to the Pace Radio Show, and thanks for tuning in. Tonight's bumper music was by the Hicks and their song, Mr. Bong. If you enjoyed their song tonight, then I suggest that you check out the Hicks online. Check them out on YouTube, because that's how I know where I found them, and they've got lots of cannabis songs, so check them out. All right, tonight on the program, we're joined by our guest, Irene York, who is an author, which we're going to talk about, and the owner of the Cannabis Corner Cafe in Penetang, Ontario. And my joint host, also another Northern Ontarian, and that's Kim Cooper. Well, ladies, where are we going to go now? I think I gave us a little hint what we're going to do, didn't I?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Irene's brand new book, Bud Basics. It's just new on the shelves. My copy is en route. I've got my copy here. And wow, packed full of information in this little guy, man. It's not a very large book, so it's not a textbook by any means. It's a great size for just getting the overview and the surface of all kinds of topics.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole point, Kim. Thanks. The book itself focuses on just what it's called, Bud Basics. Here's the basics about cannabinoids. Here's the basics about the plant itself. A little about some facts and fallacies, because there's some, silly things floating around there.
Yeah, for sure.
I touch a little bit on the methods of consumption, the different methods of consumption. As I was saying earlier, a lot of people, a topical is more than sufficient for what they need, and it satisfies its purpose with maximum efficacy. So I talk about inhalation a little bit. I talk about sublingual oils and tinctures. I give a couple of recipes for making these things yourself. Now, the rest of the series, there's 12 titles to follow this. They're subject specific. So, for example, one of the next titles coming up is Attacking Arthritis. Another is Bud for Bedtime, using it for sleep.
And that's where you get more in depth with these particular subjects.
And I focus specifically on that subject. So if someone is suffering from the condition of, the insomnia, they're having difficulty going to sleep, and they'd like to incorporate cannabis as one of the methods or tools for achieving a good night's sleep. The book is entirely on sleep issues, sleep problems, sleep challenges, and how to solve them. Not just with cannabis, but how to use cannabis as the primary vehicle.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Are they all holding the same sort of theme? I mean, by that I mean, I love like the cartoon characters, the little pictures up in the corner, and that the artistic feel of all of it. It's very cool.
Thank you. And yes, I definitely will be. I think it's important to get the information out quick and easy, and anything specific that someone wants more details on, they can go to the links and dive as deep into the information as they'd like to. I'm giving the overall planting the seeds, for lack of a better term. And so each book, when we talk about arthritis, for example, or we're talking about bowel issues, I think bowel is, the old saying used to be, poop or get off the pot. Well, this is get on the pot and poop.
Yeah. Hey, I know about that.
Cannabis is essential for anybody with any digestive issues, and how it helps, the ways in which it helps. To be able to bring that science, get away from all the technical jargon and all the silly terminology that the average Joe Blow doesn't need to know, and break it down to something that makes sense. I mean, if you look at your body as a machine, it's a matter of repairing the parts, and you got to get the right tools for the right part.
Yeah.
Simple terminology that everybody can understand.
I look at us like a plant. We seem to need the same thing as a plant to survive and live.
Yeah.
And we do. And I very strongly believe that we can heal ourselves. We just we just have to learn the tools. We need to learn what works for us and how it works for us.
So this is what, a 12 book series that you're going to do?
There's 12 titles to follow so far. At this point in time, I think 4 of them are scheduled for release over the course of the next 8 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, like you say,
I don't know what else to say. Wow. That's a lot of wow, Irene, you have been busy.
Well, the nice thing is and I think, again, it's important not to get overwhelmed with extraneous information. Initially, I was looking at the book as one very large book. And, this is all about bud. And I realized, someone with a bowel issue does not really need to know how it affects something else.
Yeah, seizures.
Fail me.
Sleep issues.
Sleep issues.
Yeah. Someone dealing with arthritis isn't worried about Parkinson's, and they don't need to read 2 or 3 chapters or 6 chapters on Parkinson's. So why pay a large amount for a very little bit of information? Why not pay a little bit of dollars for the information you want?
Exactly. That's great.
Thanks. Bud Basics, the first book released, is kind of an accessory book to the rest of the titles. As in, I'm going to refer to different recipes, the basic recipes. The cannabis-infused coconut oil is a very, very basic recipe, but it is useful for so many others.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
After a really heavy workout, and especially for me, when I first started walking again, I mean, I had aches, not pain. I had aches, and that was because I was using muscles again that hadn't been used in a while. Things like these infused, impregnated hemp cloths that are used as a wrap to just wrap around the leg until either cool ones or hot ones. They're amazing tools.
Yeah.
And so I'm sharing that information. Here's how you make them. Here's what you do, and we all can do it. Ideally, someday I can open up again the lounge part and the cafe part and put these spa solutions on the shelf so, you don't have to make it yourself. In the meantime, that's illegal. So come on down to the cafe for a workshop and I'm going to teach you how to make your own.
You cover just about everything in here, from infusions and just a little bit. And I like that you've also included dabbing and give people an overview of what it is, because many people are unsure, and there's a lot of myths around dabbing as well.
Well, I'm really hoping you could clear that up, because I personally have never tried it.
Oh, well, I'll have to get together with you on that.
As I said, I'm a new consumer, so.
Start off small, okay?
Yeah,
Just
start small. Always start small. Always start
Low
small.
and slow. Yeah, low and slow.
Yeah, always start small. I'm what they call a micro dabber. I do little tiny dabs, but I do them consistently all day long. So it works for me. I'm a distillate fan, and I find that's the best method of consumption for me, that keeps my pain away and it keeps me mobile.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, sorry?
I guess you never did hot knives, eh?
No, I didn't. And you were asking me earlier about how people adapted to my new consumption methods.
Yeah.
And when I first moved back to this area as a very young adult, my first roommate for my apartment was, he was a regular consumer, and he used hot knives. And the reason that we finally separated the roommate situation, and I said, no, I can't do this. No way, you're not. That was our main fight, was he used cannabis on a regular basis or did hot knives. And no way was I living in that environment. That was horrible.
And look at you now.
Well, yeah, I ran into the same person a few years ago, and we got to chatting, when I opened up the cafe, he made a lot of jokes about it. I remember when.
Yeah. You're going to get beat up.
On board with them.
Yeah, you're going to get beat up for that one, for sure.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, it kind of helps, because there's been a lot of people who have come through the door that are against cannabis, and for the same fearful reasons that I once was.
Yeah.
So makes it easier. I understand where they're coming from. I'm not right away offended by, you're not thinking clearly. It's easy to understand exactly where they're coming from. I mean, I really thought cannabis was a horrible thing.
Yeah, it's just a matter of education.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people, and there's still a lot of people out there who still believe that.
Yep. Absolutely,
I know. I posted a letter on Facebook that somebody had written, and it was just brutal. I thought, wow, what is this?
Yeah. The further north you go, it seems the more there are.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, what do you guys think about, or how do you feel? I mean, I look at it this way: with cannabis being so in the news now as an okay substance, as far as the government is declaring it to be okay. And you and I and we all know that cannabis is a very safe solution and an option, a much safer option, pot over pills. But do you think with more consumption, we're going to have things like allergies start popping up?
Allergies? Like people allergic to cannabis?
I don't know. I don't think anything more will happen to society in general than what happened when prohibition for alcohol ended. I don't think we'll even see the amount of effects that had on society. I think the effects will be even lesser. To a lesser extent on society than that was. I mean, I think this plant is already being consumed by everybody that it's going to be consumed by in the future. There may be the odd person that's going to say, oh, well, it's legal now, so let's go get it and try it just this once. Other than that, the only ones that are going to be buying it are the ones that already do, and they're just going to buy it in a new place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you got to look at the places, like, here in Ontario, we had a bunch of places that are 19 plus, and, the cannabis culture stores, for example, they had lineups, huge lineups outside of them. Will that happen under legalization with the government stores here in Ontario?
It may, because people don't want the idea of not having to track down your dealer or wait for him to come home and figure out who's got the best stuff and figure out where you're going to go. Hey, I can go to the store and pick what I want. Yeah, man, I want to do that. So people are going to get in line for that, right?
The only thing that scares the only thing that scares me about that is they're not asking enough questions. Consumers do not ask enough questions, and we need an educated consumer. I say that because know where your weed's coming from, know what the strain is going to do for you, research. Yeah. And I'm excited about the option of, and I really wish the world was a different place in that, we had the local farmers market that had the stalk and the leaf that was raw that we can add to our salad and we can add to our juice, put on our bologna sandwiches if we so desire.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Free market for it. Allow it to. Yeah. Where instead of being controlled so heavily as it's going to be to start with, anyways.
Yeah, the dispensaries that are going to be opening are not the dispensaries that currently exist in Ontario or Vancouver or other cities around Canada. The ones that currently exist, they stock products by various growers. The majority of them do have some testing means from low grade to high grade, depending on which one you're going to, but they all do some sort of testing for the products that they sell. But there's always a variety of craft growers and different products available. But the new regime is not going to be allowing for that. The new regime is only going to be allowing for legally produced cannabis or LP weed. That's the only stuff that you're going to get. So you're subject to getting mass-produced cannabis grown in warehouses under questionable circumstances, depending on the provider. Some are good, some are not so good. So absolutely, you are correct. If you are going to use these new facilities, you must do the research and find out which producer you're willing to purchase from.
Exactly. I mean, some of the producers, I don't know, some of our product is being put through gamma irradiation, much like tobacco is. It's the first process when it's harvested. That's a very frightening thing for a lot of reasons, and I won't go into the details, but anybody can research. Gamma irradiation is not good, and we are what we eat. Our cells are produced by what we consume. They say, they divide and they change it. We renew our cells every 28 days. It's not just your grandmother saying. So if you're putting it into your body, make sure it's quality and make sure it's real.
Yeah.
Those are my two warning labels that I would say to anybody going to any licensed producer. And there are some decent licensed producers out there who do not do that. They're very natural. They're very organic. What does that mean for the consumer? It means they have less of an option for purchase. May not be as much product available or as many options available.
Well, some provinces...
and saying you're organic doesn't, if organic is in your name, that doesn't necessarily mean you're organic, because one of the licensed producers in Canada is undergoing a lawsuit currently for using an unauthorized pesticide or an unauthorized nutrient of some sort in their crop and poisoning patients and selling product that shouldn't have even contained, like the stuff shouldn't have even been on the property to start with. So how can you call yourself organic? And largely due to that, they lost their status as an organic company. So you really got to look at the company closely and look at their history and look at people's reviews.
Exactly.
They're very important.
And keep it and verify those reviews. I mean, you can go to Fiverr and buy 1,000 reviews for your website.
Yeah. So you've got to verify them for sure.
Yeah, verify those reviews. And you don't have to go through every 1,000. You can usually get the feel of things within a few within a few conversations.
Yeah.
You see,
and again, here's why it's so sorry, Al. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. You're the guest.
I think this is why it's so important. Grow your own. We have the option, and probably not for very long, people.
Yeah.
So
a lot
grow
of people
your own.
feel that
Grow
way.
it while you can, and do the best you can. And the bottom line is, keep the simplicity in it. It's a plant. It's a weed. Grow it. Achieve your harvest.
Yes.
Appreciate it. It's know what you're putting into your body.
For sure. Good advice from Irene York.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you actually even touch on growing your own in your book as well.
Yeah.
Very briefly.
Chock full of information.
Yeah, and now with respect to growing your own, that will be one of the titles of the books in the next 8 months. I'm just not sure which month it comes out in, off the top of my head.
Well, we'll have to have you back on when the 8-month mark is up and all of these next series is out. We'll have to have you back on for another show and catch up with you again and go over as many or at least points on as many of them as we could possibly get in a 90-minute segment. I mean, you are just chock full of information and so inspirational, a patient on the move, expanding the education for herself as well as the masses around her. Thank you so much, Irene.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Al. Thanks.
Hey, you're welcome, Irene. But we're not letting you go yet.
No, not quite yet.
Not yet. This is shout out time. This is when you get. This is when we get you to let us know where we can find you on social media, whether you want to highlight a person, place, or thing, a website.
Oh,
this
wow.
is your time.
I completely forgot about the shout out. Well, we've got my websites at www.cannabiscornercafe.ca. And there you can pretty much find anything from my YouTube channel to the Amazon link for the books and the Info is Power book series, as well as keep up to date on things like the events, what the dates will be for our events, our workshops, and wow, I guess that's about it.
You have a Facebook page, Cannabis Corner Cafe?
We do. It's actually for Canna Chat 20.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And geez, what else do I have going on? I think really, I'm not sure. I wasn't prepared for a shout out. Thank you.
No problem. One suggestion I'm going to make to you for your Cannabis Corner Cafe events that hold in there, documentaries, educational documentaries where people can actually listen and see doctors like Dr. Melanie and Dr. Courtney and several other researchers. And
even stuff like The Culture High.
Correct, yeah. Culture High is an excellent movie, especially when they get talking with Jared. It's just brings tears to your eyes. But, there's educational information out there that is can be absorbed that way as well.
That's an excellent idea. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
You can do that for a couple of the info events. Just have a documentary day.
Yeah.
And a discussion afterwards that follows or some such thing. I think that's brilliant. Thank you.
All right. Well, you're welcome. Okay. See, next week we got Alicia Yashishin and her special scheduled guest is Bruce Leach. He is a lawyer. He's based in Flint, Michigan, and he's going to come on and talk about the laws in Michigan as well as the medical marijuana situation down there. And I know. Looking forward to that. Don't forget, so you can catch the Pace Radio Show on Facebook. We're on Twitter at Pace Radio, Instagram, Pace Radio Show, and we can be found on the web at pace-online.ca. Thank yous go out to our sponsors, the friendly folks, and very helpful folks at CC Nexus, Canada's largest cannabis seed wholesaler. They're found at ccnexus.global. Also, Canada's for providing Pace with a spot to do the broadcasts and to do cannabis education from. Producer Al Rapp here at Lifestyle Radio. Also, a big, huge thank you to our guest, Irene. Thank you for coming on to the show. We really appreciate you coming on and speaking to our listeners.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And Irene, as you know, you can find her at the Cannabis Corner Cafe there in downtown Penetang machine. So if you're in the area, stop by and see her there. And thanks to you, Kim, once again for everything you do here for the Pace Radio Show.
My pleasure as always. I'll love being here.
And thank you. And a big thank you to our listeners. We always appreciate our listeners, and so do our guests. Thank you, and good night.
Good night.
Good day. Thank you.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.